Good morning. Welcome to our historical weapons program for this Monday morning. It's our last class of our September session, and this will also be our last class of focusing on foundations as we are going to move into working on the choreography and the movements of the Tai Chi Yang style Tai Chi Saber set starting next week. If you've been joining along with the YouTube archive for our public archive, this will be our last public lesson. If you want to continue with the lessons, you're welcome to join us. We get together every week, and those lessons are then put onto the archive in a way that you can access them anytime you would like. If you're interested, head to magwoodsmartialarts.com. Lots of information on how to join our online classes. All right, let's get ourselves started up today. We're going to settle the feet in the ground, tongue to the roof of the mouth, and just a little bit of loosening up on the neck to get started. And we'll look from side to side. And we'll go ear to one shoulder and hang, and the other. And a couple of gentle half circles. Yeah, let's loosen up the shoulders. So much work on the shoulders when we're doing weapons work. Right. And the other. And we'll continue to warm up the shoulders, making some arm circles just in the front of the body. And then the other way. All right, and let those arms go nice and loose and just kind of wrap around a bit. Get some warmth into the rotation of the spine. Try to keep your hips and legs fairly steady. And we'll do some shoulder stretching. So let's cradle the arm across in the front. And same on the other side. And we're going to go over the head and pull. And same on the other side. Behind the back and pull. And same on the other arm. And shake it out a little bit. And let's circle our wrists one way. Again, when we put the weight of the weapon into our arms, we want to get those wrists warmed up. And the other way. One more time, one way. And the other. And then a quick stretch, pushing the knuckles in, pulling with the fingers. And same on the other side. And we can put the fingers into the palm and give a bit of a pull. And same on the other arm. Okay, let's shake that all out. And let's pick up our weapons for today. So we've been talking about how at the beginning of each class, we're going to go through some of the major cuts from the weapon, some of the major techniques of the weapon, and we're going to do that in both arms. This helps to balance out a bit of the work that we end up doing, so we're not just always working our dominant arm. Sometimes the difficulties and the challenges of working the non-dominant arm help with learning in the dominant arm, but also if we're looking at our sword as a bit of a light weights program, we are kind of getting some strengthening and some light weights work. We want to work both sides of the body. So one of the first things we were doing last time is we were working on being able to cradle the sword in the forearm with the spine sort of draped. We want to balance nicely in that space. And then we want to be able to connect to the rotation of the elbow. And we want to be able to make some circles around. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're kind of, you can think about it a little bit like cutting up from underneath. 9, 10, and then we want to circle the other way. So instead of cradling here, we're going to open 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so this is where the sword's going to start. We're going to have some movements where we're kind of rolling the sword and settling it in. And it's also where we're going to end up picking up the weapon. So we want to be able to kind of sandwich the sword a little bit between the hands. We can remove the hand, the non-dominant arm at this point. So we're gathering. We were talking about trying to get like a middle finger thumb wrap as part of our grip. We want the edges to be aligned with our knuckles. And then we want to be able to have this draped. Eventually, we want to be able to kind of move and pick up different pieces of the body. It might be on the shoulder. We were talking about that last week. Along on the forearm through to the hand. So one of the things you can practice is kind of when you pick up the sword, getting a sense of being able to drape that, push that, press against it. Forearms, elbows, tricep, that kind of area connects to the weapon. Okay, let's start out with our downwards diagonals. We are talking about when we're cutting. We don't want to think of it as a percussive weapon when we're thinking about cutting. Yes, chops are a bit more percussive, but our cuts are drawing, where we're cutting and pulling through. Now, one of the things we haven't talked too much about is weight transferring a little bit with this as well. We've been kind of ignoring the legs to a certain degree, but let's add a bit of leg in there today. So we're going to go with our opposite leg forward of the sword arm. So if you're in your dominant arm, it's right, you're going to be left leg forward. What we want to do is we want to push from the back leg, and we're thinking about whipping through and cutting. We're talking about those turnovers, where as we cut down, we want to recover, roll the wrist, and bring that up to the opposite shoulder, so across the body. And here for today, we're going to think about rocking backwards to make our cut. So we're going to go across and back, and we want those nice big X's with the edge angle and the cut angle meshing. Okay, let's do 10 of those to start out with. So we're going to go 1, 2, catch and settle. 3, the cuts come from your legs, from the twisting of your body. Once we get a weapon in our hand, we tend to start to forget about some of our core principles of Tai Chi, that, you know, all movement is driven through the core of the body, pressuring against the ground and moving out to the limbs. Just a couple more, 9 and 10. Good. Here comes the dreaded word you're going to hear at the beginning of every class, non-dominant arm. So we're going to switch that over. We're going to change up our legs. We're going to cut through. Here's that recovery, rolling over. And we talked about how those recoveries end up being deflections and parries as well, and then cut back, roll through. So we want to control the stroke because we're cutting quickly. We don't want the sword to take off on us. Okay, let's work 10 on this side now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so the second main direction for our cuts is diagonal rising. Now this one gets tricky because a lot of people do what I call sweeping the floor. They're kind of throwing their sword from side to side, but they're bringing it around, but they're not cutting. So we want to reach to cut, pull across to recover, settle to a nice balanced kind of position, drop, cut, roll back, settle, press through, cut. So remember that pulling idea. We talked last week a little bit about sword presence, that idea. Somebody puts pressure here near the end of the sword. We have to have that strength and stability in our legs and in our wrist to be able to push against that edge. Okay, let's work our rising diagonals. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good. Let's go to that non-dominant arm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so we had our downwards X. We had our rising diagonals creating that X. Now we go to our horizontals. So horizontals, we're going to get this rolling and turning of the blade. So we turn it over and we're going to come through. As we come through, our recovery now is to let this wrap around the body, and quite frequently we'll have the other hand in here to brace. This helps with pommel shots and things of that sort as well. And then we're going to push against the blade. Then we're going to turn it over and we're going to draw back in. So we're coming across and back. Ready? 1, 2. And we talked about how we can change heights of this. So we can go across the abdomen. 3, 4. We can come up through the throat. 5, 6, 7, 8. Sometimes it's low into the insides of the legs. 9, outsides of the legs. 10. Non-dominant arms. So we switch that over. We cut, we turn over the blade. We're in that braced possible position here. We're sliding and pushing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Then we went to our vertical downwards strikes. And there's not a lot of vertical upwards because we have to kind of change angles. It's better to head, mostly we head to our diagonals, but our vertical downwards, we talked about 2 versions of this as a cut. One is on the same side of the body as the sword arm. So we're going to be hitting, but remember it's not hit and stop. We're still thinking of cutting. We're creating an arc. We're pulling the blade. We're drawing the blade. Sometimes people talk about, think like a violin bow. You pull the bow on the strings. So cutting down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're going to use the same arm, but we're going to cross over to the opposite side. So now our cut's over here. We're going to cut down. 1, come back. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, sometimes it's okay to go to the non-dominant arm because the dominant arm's getting tired. So now non-dominant, downwards verticals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll change to that cross body. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Let's go back to our dominant arm and let's do some chops. So Let's do 2 chops for today. And the chops are just returning on the same angle. So we could go diagonal chopping, but let's go to vertical and horizontal today. So what we're going to do is we're going to go chop and return on our horizontal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Change arms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's do the last bit of our chopping as a downwards vertical. So we hit and return over that shoulder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Same on the other arm. So we hit and return. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Excellent. Okay, so let's change up. Let's talk about some of the thrusts that we looked at last week. Let's look at the main ones we're going to see inside the set itself. So one of the thrusts we're going to get is a rising driving of the tip upwards. And the set, it's going to come all the way up and sort of over our shoulder and things of that sort. But we're going to just go with a press and return. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. So this could be forwards, and this could also be where we drop the handle and pry upwards. 4, 5, 6. Now see the line. I want a nice line between my back heel and the tip of that blade, so the blade is supported by the body. 8, 9, 10, non-dominant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so another one we're going to get in the set is coming over the top and down and in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And sometimes we'll see these being done where you go one side and the other side. So we're poking down and across the body as well. We'll get into that one another time. So over and down, non-dominant arm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Okay, from here, one of the other ones we're going to see is where we were talking about this kind of stirring the pot kind of wall deflection. And this is going to be a frequent one where we're going to roll this over, flatten it out, and then come in with the edge sideways. So my blade is on the side and I'm thrusting in. So we're going to go deflect, thrust, deflect, thrust. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's try it on the other side. So we're deflecting. We'll talk about our deflections a bit more in a second. Then we're thrusting. 2. So we're going sideways with the blade because it fits through the rib cage, and we're spiraling it a bit so we can slide in with the sword or make a cut across. So roll, brush, thrust. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, last one, and 10. Good. Let's do one more thrust for today. And this is where we're going to sort of turn over the blade and push with the edge up. So we're going to thrust with the edge up. So for now, what we're going to do is we won't keep turning it each time. We're just going to bring it in and press it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we'll go non-dominant. We'll flip it over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Okay, let's make a switch. Time is disappearing. We're working on these foundations that we can see in the set. Now, a lot of the deflections and parries and blocks in the set are kind of hidden inside the idea that the Tai Chi sword keeps moving and flowing and changing. So we don't really distinctly think about deflecting as much as we've made a cut down and we're deflecting to make our next motion. So let's try down at our sort of hip height using the back edge of the sword. We're going to go 1, turn that over, 2, come around, 1, 2. So we're scooping something out of the way. We're deflecting something out of the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we can kind of take these from a bit of a ready position. You know, you might have your sword up and keeping some distance, and you could deflect 1 or you could deflect 2. And the nice thing is these are the same recoveries we're doing on our cuts. Remember, we're recovering and turning over to set up our next cut. So that means we can blend this. We could deflect and chop. We could deflect and cut through. So we have those deflections. Now, we also want to be able to create roofs and walls like we were talking about. So we'll see in the set quite frequently, we're going to kind of push down sometimes and pick up. So here we're creating a low pressing floor kind of movement. So we press down. Now, sometimes that press down leads to our horizontal cuts. We might press something down and push in. We might deflect something out to the side, but we're just pressing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We can also go up with this. So we're kind of making a nice shape to help support the structure, and we're kind of pressing up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now this could tilt one way, the other way. So sometimes we see places where we're kind of tilting this, lifting it out to the sides. So you could make a bit of an angled roof. One side, other side. Handle up, handle down. Deflect 1 or 2. Deflect 1 or 2. That's it. 1 or 2. Couple more. Deflect, deflect. We talked about these sort of upper walls where the sword is more upright as opposed to deflecting down and making and protecting our legs. Now we can do quite simple things like just shifting over to the side. So sometimes as we roll back to get ready for our chops, we're actually kind of deflecting before we chop. So you deflect, you could chop, you could deflect, you could chop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you deflect off. Boom, we chop in, deflect off. We can let it roll. But here we're staying up high. A couple more. Deflect, chop, deflect, chop. So you're moving something. When we come across the body, we can do this with the edge forward. We can also do this where we're scalloping along and kind of bringing the edge away. This sets us up nicely for rising cuts. So if we're here and we've turned our edge away, which sometimes helps with our deflecting without catching too solidly on our edge and damaging, we come around. 1, 2, and we'll see this quite often connected to moving to the side. 3, 4, 5, and we can also think about these connecting to our rising diagonal. So it might be a rising diagonal cut, but it also might be a rising diagonal deflection, right? Something comes in and we deflect off to the side. So we're deflecting, cutting, deflecting, deflecting, cutting, deflecting. So if we focus on the deflecting, you can think about somebody thrusting towards your throat to your shoulders and you're going, oh, not on that side. Oh, please not on this side either. Deflect, 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 deflect off to the sides. Good. So we've covered our low, horizontal. We've got these downwards deflections that connect to our chops and our cuts as well. We've got these rising diagonals now connecting. So then we talked about creating that pressed roof. And then we bring things a little closer with the roof where we start to kind of look out from behind the hand. And this is where we start to get into also the idea of the drapes, where we're draping the sword across our back. So in this case, let's just try a few diagonal here. So 1 and 2, and 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Now in the Tai Chi, being so circular, we tend to deflect and roll with things. That's going to lead to some of our chops. We'll work on that more next week because we're running out of time today. So here we can think about up and over our back. Up, and what we want to be able to do is we want to kind of slide the sword along till it gets to our shoulder. From there we could do downwards verticals, we could get our diagonals, we could get our horizontals up from that position, but it's kind of here along the back. If we come up the other way, so if we deflect here, one of the ways to think about this is create the peak of a roof and you're looking out of the attic. So we look out of the attic and we slide that across, and then we could cut from there. So we can go over one way, or we can go up and over the other. And this is going to be happening throughout the set. So all of these movements are going to link together. And what you're going to see is quite often it's not distinctly, this is a cut, this is a thrust. We might end up in a thrust position, but we got there through doing our parries. That parry might turn into something and then turn into something. So as Tai Chi typically works, we're going to be flowing from one thing to another, blending all of these foundations. But what I want to start with we got to let it go for today, was getting comfortable with the weapon. We've got some positions we want to be comfortable with. So cradling and exchanging. We have the positions over the back and back again. And then we have all of our directions for parrying and blocking and deflecting. And we want all of those to function as we start to blend them and put together the Yang style Tai Chi Saber set. All right. Thanks for joining today. Good. We will see you in October, and we will start into the choreography of the set next week. Thanks for training hard today. Talk to you all soon.